Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity, community service, volunteering, and just spreading positive vibes. We're always about the positivity here on the show, and with me today, I've got a very special guest. He is a former North American Tag Team Champion and Heavyweight Champion with Revolution X. He's wrestled for numerous promotions. We're going to talk to him about his time as a deputy sheriff. Welcome, Brian O'Neill, to Wrestling with Heart.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So tell me about your upbringing in childhood. Where are you from?
So originally I'm from Dunbar, Pennsylvania. It's a little town in between Uniontown and Connersville. It's probably about 40 minutes south of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Just give you a rough idea. Everybody knows where Pittsburgh's at.
Yeah.
My mother was a single parent. For the first part of my childhood, I was mainly raised by my grandparents. And then after my grandmother passed away, my mother came back into the picture. And then, that was pretty much my upbringing, just anything that, needed. Being in a single household, she worked all the time. And so I pretty much worked as well. I had paper out at age 12. Went out there, hustled the newspapers, odd and end jobs, cut grass, played sports, played baseball, football, and wrestling all the way through junior high. And then in senior high, I cut it down just to play football.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like you were really busy as a kid.
I was, one of the good things I stayed busy, and because I stayed busy, I think that's what kept me out of trouble. Otherwise, I've probably been in a lot of trouble.
That's good.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So what got you into professional wrestling? Was it something you watched it growing up?
Yeah, I always watched wrestling growing up. I loved it. Back then, Saturday mornings, you got up and, cartoons were on until 9. And then like at 9 or 10 o'clock, like wrestling just started for the whole entire day. You had the NWA that came on. They had a couple shows. Then you had the WWF that came on, and that led you all the way up to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, when I come home from school, the UWF was on with Larry Sabisco, Kurt Hennig, and all them. So it was like, hey, get home from school, turn to ESPN, watch that. Yeah.
It's like a marathon of wrestling almost, because it was something for everybody throughout the day, no matter what promotion it was, like one after another.
Yeah. Yep. And then Saturday night, you had the Saturday night main event. So, I remember staying up at 11 o'clock at night, turning that on, to see what matches were going to be on.
Yeah, it seemed like no matter what promotion you were watching, it seemed like there was always something to look forward to when to tune in every week. Who were like some of your favorite wrestlers to watch?
So some of my favorite wrestlers, I leaned more towards the NWA only because I felt it was more realistic. Watching Ric Flair was always one of my biggest fans. Take such a beating and then win with a schoolboy. Sting, man, that was probably like the idol, man. It was probably like Ric Flair and Sting side by side unless they were fighting one another. And the Road Warriors, the Steiner brothers, once they teamed up. I always liked Savage, Bret Hart. The list is so long, and
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So, all right. So, was there a moment where you said, "I've got to do this. This is what I want to do"?
I wanted to do it like as soon as I got out of high school, but I didn't have a clue, how to get involved in it or anything. And then when I got out of high school, I joined the military, and I went to airborne school, ranger school, and then I got sent over to Desert Storm. I ended up serving almost almost 8 years in the military, and then I got out. And when I got out, I went and got my associate's degree, and I ended up getting a job down in Pittsburgh with CCAC. It's a little community college down there, just a few blocks up from the stadium. And when I was down there, one of the guys that worked underneath me, who I became very good friends with, his name was Sean the Shocker Evans, a great guy. He came up to me one day and we were sitting there talking and everything. He goes, "Hey, I got a show tonight, man. What, you want to come check it out?" And I was like, "Heck yeah." I was like, "What kind of show? Like music, man, and stuff?" He goes, "No, I'm doing wrestling." I was like, "Get out of town." I was like, "What kind of wrestling you doing?" And so he started telling me, and I was like, "Dude, I'm in." I was like, "I'll definitely be there." We went down to the old Eastland Mall, no heat, barely got electricity in that place, but man, place was jam packed. They had like 500 people in the crowd, and but man, I sat there and watched the show. I was so into it. And he goes, after the show, we went to eat, and he goes, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to work out with." He goes, how about I make you a deal?" He goes, "I'll work out with you and train you and stuff, and for free. And you work out with me, you be my workout partner." I was like, "Dude, I'm in." So I was like, "Just say no more, I'm in." And so I started working out with him, and the promoter saw me. Next thing I know, he's like, "Hey, you want to work a show?" I was like, "Yeah." Uh, I got in there, started working a little bit here and there. Later on, it was probably about 6 months, I think, went by. Sean ended up getting a tryout for the power plant for WCW, and ECW just opened up. It was called the House of Hardcore 2 in New Brighton, Pennsylvania. The head trainer was Shane Douglas, and the second trainer was Dominic DeNucci. And I had a young son at the time, and so as much as I wanted to go down to WCW with Sean, I was like, "Well, man, I just can't leave my son. I still got responsibilities here." But I got on the phone. Next thing I know, hey, Shane picked up, called me back, said, "Hey, you want to come down?" I said, "Yeah." So I went down there. Man, it was like that was the start of everything,
The
right
rest was history.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, coming from a military background, that had to have prepared you for the life of being a pro wrestler because it enabled that toughness and really taught discipline, especially in the field of combat.
yeah, most definitely because being an airborne ranger, you're taught to push your body to beyond limits that you thought you would actually be able to achieve. And when you get to that, sometimes it's just instincts that take over, and you don't really think that everybody uses that cliche that wrestling's fake, but they don't realize how much that needs to go into it, how much endurance and how much beating your body actually takes. That for somebody that says that it's fake, it's like, yeah, you think it's fake? Why don't you get in the ring with me? And I bet you don't last 10 minutes. I'll go all day long.
Yeah, I mean it's no joke. I mean, you had to train
Yeah.
for a particular amount of time. It's a very intense workout that you have to condition your body for. Tell me about the training process.
Yeah, so when I and this even goes in with Sean, because with Sean, we used to go down there at Saturday morning and we would train all day. We would train till 5, 6 o'clock at night, and we'd videotape it and go back and watch it, watch things that we did, how we did it. If we thought we messed up, we'd make little marks and stuff of where we messed up, how to improve it. And I think that really helped me for when I got hooked up with Shane in the House of Hardcore 2, because when I went down there, it was very strict. Hey, you had to be at the building at 8 o'clock, and at 8:01, that door got locked. If you missed 3 days or three training sessions, you were out. Man, there was
Really?
no second chance. There was no, hey, I got traffic, Nope, sorry, bud. Doors locked. Once that door's locked, forget it. So we got down there, and then you started doing your calisthenics and everything. Box squats, push ups, sit ups, push ups, everything. And then you get in the ring, and it was like, all right, we're gonna run the ropes. And so we would be sitting there running the ropes for a minute and a half. And the thing was is that so Shane would sit there with his watch, and he would time you, and he wouldn't even watch you in the ring running, because you can literally, it's almost like somebody playing the music. It's such a timing thing, and when you're going across that ring, you're just listening for the steps. So it's like boom, 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 boom. But when you hear boom, 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 it's like, nope, you messed it up, man. Stop, stop, stop. And the thing too, man, he would let you go until you were at like that 1 minute 20 seconds, and then he's like, stop, stop. Nope. I heard 3 steps, man, at 1 minute mark. Start over. And now you got to start over, and he wants a certain pace. There's no little lag. If you don't keep that whole pace going that whole time, stop, start over, get it going. And then we would go out and we do little runs sometimes. Sometimes it'd be 2 miles, maybe 5 miles around New Brighton. Come back to the school, get in there, and then we start training. And then the training sessions would go until sometimes 2 o'clock, sometimes 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And now we're finally getting done and getting out of the ring and stuff. And it's like, all right, be here tomorrow. You're
Talk
back
about
the next day. Yeah.
talk about a crazy schedule. That just sounds unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
It was grueling.
they're teaching you how to get conditioned, how to get your body in shape. And you coming from that military background, that like I said, that prepared you for professional wrestling. It kind of goes hand in hand. So you get the training. Tell me about what was your first match or few matches? Tell me about those.
So my very first match was against Sean Evans. We were in Connersville, Pennsylvania. We were at this ice gardens down there and stuff. And so we went, I want to say about 10 minutes. It wasn't very long, very basic, nothing complex, because like I was just starting out and stuff, didn't have whole much. So we just started doing a lot of basic moves, but we were doing a lot of chain wrestling because I had my high school background, and I was working with Sean on that, and that was something that he wanted to work on, was doing more of the chain wrestling. So we were sitting there in the center of the ring, and we're just going move for move and reacting off of the other person. And I was just sitting there listening to the crowd as we were doing stuff. And you could literally hear them start to build and build and build until the point that it was just like they were up there and they were clapping and applauding when we did that standoff. And I was like, wow, I was sitting there because I'd watch everybody else's matches and stuff, and it was like they come out punch, like right off the bat. But when we did that, it was like it just started setting the tone to where, all right, more guys started working more on the psychology and doing the chain and just sitting there really putting an effort into their matches than to run out there, because anybody can kick and punch.
Right.
It's like a little street brawl. We've all had them.
That adrenaline starts to kick in, especially when you hear that roar of the crowd and they're reacting to what's going on in front of you. So when you got finished with the match, you had to have known that you were onto something that night.
I did. Once we finished that match and stuff, I remember sitting in my house, and I was sitting there, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm putting all my efforts into doing pro wrestling. I'm going to shoot straight to the top, and you know, I held odd and end jobs, but it was like, hey, man, any kind of wrestling, big matches or anything that I could possibly do, it was like, sorry, bro, gotta go.
Now, how long were you with ECW?
So ECW, let's see. So the way it was for me with ECW is that I was just like a touch and go guy kind of thing because I had a guaranteed tryout with them because of the school.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got told by Shane that I graduated the school and everything, but I was more than welcome to come back, he labeled me as being the first graduate from the school. And then him and Paulie had this huge falling out. And when they had that huge falling out, which was like 2 weeks later, I remember being at the school. It was late at night one night. Shane's on the phone trying to talk to a couple different people, wondering why his plane tickets weren't being sent and stuff for the show. And he's like, "What's going on?" And he ended up leaving just a few weeks after that and going to WCW. So now I'm sitting here, I got this paperwork and stuff. I'm still talking to him, and he's saying, yeah, he goes, if you want to call him up, go ahead, feel free. I'm not going to stop you. But because you were part of me in the school, don't be surprised if they're not going to do anything with it. So now I was sitting there like, what the heck, So I was just like, I don't know what to do. So at that point, there was about a year that went by where I didn't do anything with them. And then I got tired because I was trying to make that transition over, and I was getting a lot of doors shut on my face. And I kept saying, well, I got this, I got this. So finally they came to Pittsburgh. And when they came to Pittsburgh, I knew how to approach them and stuff. So I went down to the building. I got there around noon and stuff. I talked to a couple of the guys. Hey, I was like, hey, you guys mind if I help set up the ring and everything? They're like, yeah, sure, come on. So I helped set up the ring, the building. We got everything set up, and the boys always worked out before the show and stuff. And I knew that because I got to work out with them a few times while Shane was still there. So I got all my stuff ready to go. Got into the ring, man. Me and Chris Chetty were sitting in there, and we're chain wrestling. We're just going and stuff, man. Because when they worked out, it wasn't about hitting the ropes and everything. It was just about, hey, stay in the center of the square circle and let's go, man. We're just going to chain. That's how everybody did it. And you would tag in and out and go right back into it and stuff. I ended up being in there for like 40 minutes.
Wow.
Just going and going. And it was like, wow, and I was on like another high at that point. And I ended up talking to Dreamer. I talked to a couple of the other guys. They're like, yeah, come around anytime you want and stuff. But there was no guarantees. I got to do a few run-ins at the time down at the Ice Garden. I remember doing a run-in, Sam Anthony, Kane, and everybody and stuff, man. Got to be at the Beaver Dome and stuff, but nothing like major. And then before you know it, ECW goes belly up. That was the big thing. Then at that point, that's when I reached out to Shane and I said, hey, I was like, ECW went belly up. I was like, is there any interest? Can you help me maybe get down to WCW? So I want to say at that point, maybe a month went by. It might have been just a little bit longer, but not much longer. He calls me back and he tells me, yeah. He goes, call this number. I make the call and stuff. Paul Orndorff brings me down to the power plant. They offer me a developmental deal. I'm at the school. working out, training and everything. They're talking about doing some stuff for Saturday night's main event. Do a couple of things where, like a security guard for some guys, who dress us in black and all that and stuff. But again, it was like I got once I started making my crossover, it was right at the tail end,
Yeah.
So at that point there, that door ended up getting shut, So now I'm back home. I used to work out at Powerhouse Gym in West Mifflin. Well, Kurt Angle also worked out at that gym. And I remember Kurt approached me one day and he said he saw me at some shows and everything. And he was looking to get back in with Vince. And he goes, "Hey, do you train? Where do you train at and stuff?" And I go, "Well, I got a key for the Eastland Mall." And I go down there and we'll work out in the ring and stuff. And me and him worked out together for a year before he made his debut in the WWF at that time.
Yeah.
I remember right before he made his debut, he calls me up and asked me if I'd be willing to be on the news with him. And I was on Channel 2 News in Pittsburgh where they filmed us doing a match and everything. And I was on seventh heaven.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm wrestling Kurt Angle right before he makes his big debut. And I was loving that.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Kurt ended up going on having a fabulous career, and stuff. And so now I'm here. WCW goes belly up, everything. Then it's like 6 months later, I get the phone call from Shane, and Shane was working with the Federation from California, XPW, and says, "Hey, you want to get in on this?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "I'm all in." I go, like, "What do you need?" and stuff. And so I got a job title as ring crew manager, building coordinator, plus worker. so I was in charge of all the ring stuff. I had the ring, the truck, the entranceway, like you name it, I had it all and stuff. So we go down there, set everything up, and tear it down. And we were kind of doing everything just like ECW, but half of the roster was ECW. So, and then we're running out of the old ECW arena down there and stuff. Oh, it was just like phenomenal. And so that's like where I really got my first big break at that point.
Definitely seemed like there was a lot of those talents that were in the old ECW that came to this new promotion, and to see it kind of take off as it did really brought some new eyes to pro wrestling.
Yeah. Yep, most definitely.
And you also were in TNA for a time too, Impact Wrestling. Tell me about that experience.
So again, so Shane was at he was at TNA at the time, right? And I remember his niece was because I helped him move to Florida and stuff. And when I helped him move to Florida, his niece came with us. And I started actually dating his niece at the time. Well, she stayed down here when he first moved down here. And when that all went, there was about a month went by, and she calls me up, and that's when the hurricane was coming through Florida in 2004, and Shane wasn't home. So she goes, "Hey, can you come down?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I can be there in 15 hours. I'll come down, pick you up, and we'll take off." So I drove down here. I went to get her, and I was like, I just drove into this. It didn't look that bad. I was like, let's just hang out. Let's go get something to eat. Let's chill. And I was like, let me get a nap and everything. So we ended up staying. We never left Florida, and it was just a little rainstorm and everything where we were at. Next thing I know, so later that day, Shane calls and I'm talking to him on the phone. And I'm like, "Yeah, hey, I'm at your house and everything." He goes, "Yeah, no problem." He goes, "We'll be in town on Thursday." He goes, "Can you come down, pick me up and everything?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "Oh, by the way, did you bring your gear? And I was like, well, that's a silly question. I was like, you and Dominic always told me never leave home without my gear. Always have it in the car. I was like, so I have my bag in the car. He goes, okay, bring it with you. So I took it over. We went over to Orlando there, and sure enough, next thing I know, he's like, hey, I'm gonna put you with Abyss. I was like, all right. So me and Abyss, we went like 15 minutes in our first match, and he did his finishing move, and they liked how I got up for him for such a big guy so well that was the opening when they go through all the different wrestlers and everything. When they showed Abyss there, I was, for over 2 years and stuff, man. It was like,
Wow.
yeah.
You made it on television.
Yeah. So, and that was a TV televised match and everything. So that all started and everything. I was like, oh, this is great. They gave me a plane ticket to come back down and stuff for the next month, and it was just like one thing led to another. And I was like, okay. I was like, this is great.
Sounds like your careers was just up and down for a long time, and you've hit so many highs and lows just by speaking to you. Sounds like you had an amazing time going through those transitions and making those rounds. Who are like some of your favorite opponents to work with over the course of your career?
So over the course of my career, Kurt Angle has to be one of the top. I loved working out with him. I loved being in the ring with him. It was just fabulous.
One of the best of all time, too.
Yeah, Matt Bourne. Man, I traveled with Matt for a couple of years. Had a lot of matches with him. Loved it. Everything about it and stuff with him. You never knew what to expect with Matt, and he always kept you guessing, I guess is what I want to say, on everything. So just as you thought you were feeling too comfortable, Matt would change things up, and he knew how to reach in there and make you pull out the best that you have, which I thought just made me better for the crowd and stuff. And he taught me so much on the psychology and everything. And then the road trips, we're just driving along. I actually learned how to speak Carney with Matt driving down the highway, and we're reading street signs. And he's like, hey, this is how you say this. This is how you say that. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, but Tatanka, I had a phenomenal match with Tatanka. We were up in Chicago. I'm the only guy without a huge name on the show. I go out there and I wrestled Tatanka in front of like 15,000 people at a fair. And when I come back, man, the first people that greet me is Hawk and Animal. And they're like, dude, that was an awesome match. That was so great. And then I had Eddie Gilbert, or not Eddie Gilbert, can't think of Eddie's last name, but he came up, and then there was Matt showed up, Bobby Fulton showed up. His dad, Bobby Fulton's dad, was there. They were the ones that were running the show, and they were thanking me for doing such a great match and stuff. Greg Valentine came up to me, and he's like, yeah, we're just getting ready to do a tour over in the Bahamas. Here's my card. Call this person on this card. He gave me the agent's phone number. I got to go over to the Bahamas and do a bunch of shows over there just because of that one match. And I was like, wow,
I mean, the cool thing about pro wrestling is you get to travel to so many different places, and you definitely had that experience by getting to do all those things. So amazing. Let's let's switch gears and talk about the stuff you've done outside of the ring. You're a deputy sheriff. Tell me about that, because that's a pretty fascinating career transition.
Yeah. So I ended up getting divorced in 2016, and when I got divorced, it was like, man, what am I going to do now? So I ended up moving to Florida. I have custody of my two boys. We all live together, and I was sitting there like, man, body's a little beat up. I'm an older gentleman now and stuff. And I was like, and I got to figure something out, something to pay the bills on a regular basis. So I ended up meeting my recruiter for the military, and I talked to him and stuff, and he goes, "Hey, he looks me up one side down the other, and he goes, you know what? You ought to get into corrections." And I was like, nah, I was like, I don't have that kind of temperament. I was like, man, that's not going to be good, man. Somebody says something to me, I'm going to slap them silly, man. He goes, dude, he goes, you're perfect. They would take you in a heartbeat. So I ended up signing up. He got me a link to the site and stuff. And the Florida State Correctional Institution, they called me up. I ended up working at a MaxSeg jail and stuff for 4 years. But the pay isn't like the pay is crap there. Like for you putting your life on the line every day, the money just is horrible. And then I had a couple buddies that was there at the state with me, and they left and they became sheriffs and everything. And they're like, "Hey, you got to come over here. You're gonna love this." And so I went and put my application in. Port Charlotte called me up, and they're like, "Hey, come on down." They, went down there, took the PAT test. They hired me almost on the spot. And I tell you what, that was the best move I've ever made. I love it there. Everybody there, man, I get along with. So, yeah, the deputy sheriff in Florida, we're law abiding down here. Everybody, they appreciate the law enforcement. They want us here and stuff. So, it just all clicked, and it just makes you feel like you're actually wanted, and you're doing a great job for the community.
It seems like it's a fun place to be, and it can be tough at times because you have to take care of so many different people. Just so many people I know that you have to watch out for that run off or whatever. I'd imagine it's very stressful.
Oh, it is, but I look at, the bad outweighs the good, because I I know how it makes me feel knowing that, hey, everything in my life, and now I'm kind of being able to give back to the community and to everybody else for, hey, all those times that they spent it might have been their last couple of bucks just to go and watch me wrestle someplace. But now, hey, this is kind of my way to say thank you for all the hard times that you endured just to, give me a little bit of money and stuff. So I get to do that. But then my kids love the fact that they go around, they're like, yeah, my dad's a deputy sheriff, and they love that. And just the whole thing, though, being able to feel like you finally reached the plateau in your life where you're actually doing something with your life that has a meaning to it, and instead of just kind of running through aimlessly trying to look for the next high, kind of thing, not drug wise, but like
Yeah.
flavor of the day, you know.
What's your favorite part about being a deputy sheriff?
Uh, I think my favorite part of is just seeing when you go out and you got your uniform on and you see the little kids out there, and they smile, or they'll look at you and they'll hi, and then when you talk back to them and you're like, hey, how's it going, buddy, and stuff, and they sit there and they go, hey, are you really a cop? Yeah, I am. That's real gun on the side, and you just let them know that, hey, we're not a bad person, that they can approach you and that you will talk to them, and you're not gonna throw them around or beat them up or anything, and that
Yeah.
you're here for them if they need you. Hey, all you have to do is yell for us, and we're gonna come and help you no matter what it is. And then just in my little community where I live, everybody knows that I'm a deputy sheriff, and you drive out your driveway going to work or coming home, and everybody's waving and you're waving back. It just has that feeling that, hey, you finally have achieved something to be able to do it, to give back. I know when I was wrestling, somebody called me up and say, hey, I got a benefit show for Children's Hospital or St. Jude's. I was like, oh man, I was like, don't even say nothing. Tell me when and where and I'll be there. Because I just wanted to feel like I'm giving something back finally for everybody's hard work that they've done just to be able to come and see me.
I like that a lot because everybody needs help. We all do. And to have somebody like a police officer, like a deputy sheriff to come out and rescue whoever's in need when there's at times of stress, times of trouble, it's very important to have somebody like that around. So kudos to you for being able to step up and take care of people when they're struggling.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, Brian. This has been wonderful getting the chance to talk with you. It means a lot to me and to the listeners and viewers. Where can people find you on social media?
Social media, really, the only thing I have is Facebook. And that's really it. I'm not a big social media guy. And even my social media, I don't post things like to document what I'm doing. I post things that humor me, kind of, something that might make me laugh or just bring back a memory of something in my past. Or that's kind of the stuff I post. But hey, if anybody ever wanted to say hi or anything, like, all they have to do is hit me up through Messenger or something. It might take me a day or something to respond, but most of the time, I respond to everybody and, just to say, hey, yeah, I'm still alive. I'm still kicking it.
Well, thank you, Brian, again for coming on, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Oh, I appreciate that. Anytime, I'd be happy to come back.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk to you later.
All right. You have a great day. Thank you.
You too. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.